Hello, everyone. What we are going to discuss in this session is about the community organizing process in relation to implementing community interventions. No, so previously we have discussed about the CDX and also about planning. Now, for us to be able to implement the plans that we have identified for the community, um, we need to go through the community organizing process. So the community organizing process is the approach that we use in implementing community interventions and anchored on the model COPAR. Now, COPAR means Community Organizing Participatory Action Research. Okay. Now, there are 5 phases for the community organizing process. The first phase is the pre-entry phase. During the pre-entry phase, it's actually the simplest phase in terms of actual outputs and in terms of activities and strategies. It involves site selection, and there are criteria that we need to follow or to observe when we are selecting the site for CO or for community organizing. This includes a depressed, poor community, the inaccessibility or inadequacy of health services, poor health status of the community, with no serious peace and order problem, no strong resistance from the community, from the model utilized. This is very important so that our entry later on in the community will be accepted by the community so we can continue with our work with them. So there should be no strong resistance. Also, no similar agencies or programs currently are in the community to avoid duplication of activities. So if you remember, in the video recording of Sir Nemi Santos, he mentioned about the community organizing as an activity that is actually participated in by different organizations, non-government organizations. And aside from the academic institutions like our School of Nursing. So this is to help the WHO in the implementation of their health objectives for the community. So when we select a site, there should be no other agencies who are currently doing their community organizing activities in that area. Okay, so these are the criteria when we are selecting a community where we can do our organizing process. So what are the activities that are usually done during the site selection? First is through community consultations and dialogues. So we can also have a feel if there is resistance or if the community, particularly the leaders, are open to the possibility of your group, of our group, being accommodated or being accepted in their community, just like what we are doing with WAWA. So, first is community dialogue, consultations, and also preliminary social investigation is done that would involve initial data gathering, also informal interview, and also through network with local government units for project endorsement. Kaya nga, if you still read, no, not with your batch pala. So usually the first activity nga that we do when we go to WAWA is really to have our courtesy call first with Kinakapitan so they can also endorse us, no, to the barangay where we are going to work, or to the CPO. No? Okay, so yun. So next is after site selection is to identify now the host families. Living with host families would ensure round-the-clock integration and experiencing the life of the community residents. So when we do our community organizing activities, you need to immerse yourselves, no, with the community. So you need to live there, live there, be with them, so you will have a feel of their community life, and that would necessitate a host family. Okay, so a host family should be identified before the actual entry. So take note, this is during the pre-entry phase. So there are list of host families already, no? Kung saan the students can stay with them. Now, there are criteria that we need to check, no, during this time in identifying the host families. Number one, the house should be strategically located in the barangay to enable communication. Number two, the host family should not belong to the rich segment of the community. So expect that when you do your immersion, in the future, when you do your community or immersion activities, maybe not a student, but maybe a nurse na later on in the future. So we usually choose a host family who are on the average, no, average group, hindi, not those who are rich families. Uh, so also those who are less privileged will not will will not stereotype you as parang you have your preference over the rich members in the community. So the immersion will be more facilitated in integration. If people in the community can see us living the way we are living. So if we live with families, who are common, ordinary, or belonging to the average strata, then yun, it will be more preferred. Okay. Host family should not also belong to the, the family should also be respected by the leaders of the community, so that when we are doing our projects, it will help facilitate our activities. Tapos the family should also have a house where neighbors, especially the poor, are not hesitant to enter. Kasi this, in community organizing, we need to unite people together, so they will be empowered together to achieve achieve sustainability or achieve health together. So collaboration and cooperation is actually one of the aim. Kaya if we stay with one family, better if they're also open to entertaining guests, especially those members of the community who are less privileged. Okay, so that is during the pre-entry phase. Now let's talk about the entry phase. The entry phase is also called the social preparation phase. Okay. The criteria that we need to observe would be during the entry phase should be organizers should recognize local authorities through courtesy call to orient project objectives. So once we do our courtesy call na, that's the sign that we are already in the entry phase. Also, the team members, speech, appearance, behavior, and lifestyle should be in keeping of those with the community during the entry phase. Um, just like what we have mentioned a while ago, that we need to live with the community. We need to live the way they live. So when we go there, our appearance and behavior should also be in keeping with what is usually observed in the community. So hindi ka pupunta doon naka-heels or kaya solid naka-con todo makeup with all your jewelries. No, so the simpler the better. No, na as much as possible not noticeable. No, so we should immerse ourselves in the crowd. Okay. Also, organizers, the students who are immerse or the nurses who immerse themselves in the community should adopt a low-key profile and approach. No? So as I have mentioned kanina, as much as possible, hindi manotice. So low-key lang, but yung approach, dapat hindi intimidating, yung mga ganyan. And then, so what are the activities during the entry phase? First is the integration with the community. Starts with the courtesy call. And then we conduct information campaign regarding the program. And we also conduct deepening social investigation. And also, we can provide health services. And we can also start identifying potential leaders in the community. Okay, so in the entry phase, the integration is very important. It should be facilitated. So what do we mean by integration? It is the process of establishing rapport with the people in a continuing effort to imbibe community life. So to achieve this, we can follow this method of integration. First is we live with the community through our host families. Second, we participate in direct production activities of the people like planting, harvesting, fishing. Number 3, we conduct house-to-house visit. Number 4, social activities like birthdays, weddings, and wakes. We can be involved. We join these activities. Also, we converse where people usually gather, such as stores, wash areas, or in the churchyards. Where usually kung saan tumatambay yung mga tao. And then we also do household chores. So whatever is done by those people in the community, we also do it. So we also help. So this is how integration can be facilitated. Okay. Aside from integration, we also need to conduct information campaign about the programs during the community organizing. So we disseminate information about the purpose and strategies that would be undertaken for development. Okay. Next, aside from disseminating information through conducting information campaign, is to gather data. To gather data for our community studies. So maybe initially we had this rapid assessment when we were doing the consultation, but you will be able to gather the community study, or the CDX. You'll be able to do the situational analysis very well when you are inside the community, when you're already living in the community. So that's the third part of the entry phase when we conduct community study and we deepen our social investigation. So that would include, of course, again, those uh, demographic variables, the socioeconomic and cultural variables, no, the health and illness pattern, no, yan, mga mortality and morbidity data, food supply and nutrition, cultural patterns, beliefs and practices, health facilities and services, the education, also identifying community leaders and organization, as well as development agencies, and identifying community problem needs, right? Then the fourth step is the provision of basic health services. So we initiate immediate interventions for acute health problems of the community, like for example, for dengue fever, measles, disasters, and calamities. Number five is to identify the potential leaders, no, or to develop a core group. So core group formation would involve future organizers and possible partners, no, as we implement the community interventions. Okay. So that is the entry phase. Now let's talk about the third phase, the organizing and the capability building phase, which involves planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating community-wide activities. It also signals the start of community self-management of any development program. Now, there are four major activities during the organizing and capability building. First is to prepare the community for organizational building. Number two is we organize committees. Number three is to train and develop, the committees that we form. And number four is to set up, the community, particularly the organizations or the committees, through a community assembly. Okay, so yun. So again, we complete the community diagnosis, which is a systematic process of collecting, collating, synthesizing, and analyzing data to draw a clear picture of the community, particularly its problems. So in the community assembly, we are going to present to the community, the results of our community study. Okay, so they are aware, they can confirm, they can validate, they can, and then we can also plan with them. We can explore with them possible solutions. No, so this is, so you become a facilitator, of their self-development program. Okay. Then the fourth phase is the sustenance and the strengthening phase. In the sustenance and strengthening phase, the community health organization has already been established, and the residents are already participating in the community-wide undertakings. In this phase, there are strategies, that we can utilize. And these are education and training, networking and linkages, conduct mobilization on health and development concerns, implement livelihood programs, and developing secondary leaders. Take note that at this point, we have already presented the result of the study, in the third phase. Plans were explored, plans were identified, solutions were explored, realistic solutions were explored. Also, so to be able to address the community health problems that were identified from community study, then we identify now the strategies, the appropriate strategies to address those problems. And these are yun nga, through education. This can be either, no, whichever is applicable, right? Education and training, networking and linkages, especially if the community needs resources, no, to be able to address a certain community problem. Also, mobilization of on health and development concerns. Also, the implementation of the livelihood programs. And if there's a need for secondary leaders, especially for sustainability, because it's not all the time that the present leaders will be staying, no, for a long time. So, syempre, we can also plan for succession. So those future or secondary leaders, para hindi naman burn out yung mga current leaders, community leaders natin. Okay, so yan. So that's the sustenance and the strengthening phase. Then the last phase is the turnover and the phase out phase. Okay, the actual turnover of activities and programs that have been previously set to the key person, in the community involved in the organizing process to sustain program or project continuity and development. So I think we have mentioned last time that usually, when we do community organizing, it's not a one-time, big-time activity. We need to stay with the community, maybe minimum of 3 years. No, so like for the Institute of Nursing, no, because we are doing community organizing in Wawa, so we are expected, to be with the community for like 3 to 5 years. So to really see, the impact also of community development. So yun. So in the last phase, we turn over, the programs, the current programs, the activities to the key people, to the key person in the community. And also, aside from turning it over, we ensure that there are leadership training and principles and processes that were shared also. So the organizing process must not revolve around the community organizer alone. No, it must not revolve around us. No, those who are going to the community for community organizing. So it's not about us. It's it's about the indigenous leaders, of the community who will eventually take over, the role of the community organizer. So community organizing should promote collective or shared leadership. Okay, so and that's why we need to ensure that leadership trainings are provided and must be based on these principles and concepts. That leadership is a service, no, as opposed to a leader as authority. So leadership is directed towards the welfare of others. Also, the principle of corporate or collective leadership as opposed to a one-person form leadership. So it means sharing of leadership with others, and this is very important in community organizing. Also, delegation of authority is important, especially in implementing decisions, work, and responsibility, which are decided by different leaders and members. Eliciting participation is also another important concept. Leaders encourage or motivate people to join the discussion and work towards a common goal. And last is the concept of problem solving, which is a means of investigating all aspects of a situation or a problem. So all suggestions are considered and integrated into a viable theory that could be put into action by the community. Okay, so those are the 5 phases of community organizing. All right. Thank you everyone for listening.